Hi there, so welcome back to the channel. Today you're going to see me doing a bit of work on these two paintings I've got in front of me here. I'm going to be looking at the sketches that I did in a couple of the previous videos. If you haven't seen those, I'll pop the link up here for you so you can see what I'm referring to and how those initial sketches came about. It's just a bit of fun. I'm trying to build up some layers, get them started, so it's quite different when you're working on, these are boards, these are like a little gesso panel. For some reason I had some dark ground colour under here, so I've just slapped a bit of primer on the top of it, white primer, to take away that dark ground. I don't know, I think I just had this idea that I would use a dark ground to start my paintings, but I didn't really want to do that in the end. I like the light coming through. I'm not really sure why I did that. So anyway, I've got some just put a little bit of gesso primer on them to lighten them up again. So you'll see me working on these paintings, and as I was saying, it's quite different when I'm working on board or canvas. I like to build up the layers. The work on paper that I do outside and then bring back to the studio and tear up and collage and all that kind of stuff is very immediate. It's very it's like a one-shot kind of thing. I get it down on the paper and then leave it, and then I'll come back and collage it. But when I'm working on a slightly more rigid surface, I like to build up the layers of the paint, put paint down, scrape it off, work back through it to reveal things that are underneath, find unexpected results like that. It's important to me to experiment and play when I'm doing my work, and play is not a negative term in my mind. It's a very important part of my painting process. It has to be fun and enjoyable, but play as experimentation, that's the way I think of that word. It's about not being bound up in trying to get the perfect results the whole time or trying to recreate something I've done before. Playfulness is about experimenting and trying things out that you're not sure about. You don't know if it's going to work, you may never have tried it before, but through that kind of experimentation you can end up with things that you weren't expecting, and you might get some great results. So I hope you enjoy watching that. Before we get started, I'd just like to remind you my next online workshop is approaching fast. It's coming up the beginning of April, starts on April the 3rd. There are still some places left. It's ramping up now, it's starting to fill up, but if you do want to join the workshop, please do check out the link that's on the screen and in the description to the video. The kinds of things I do on this workshop is very much the kind of thing I'm doing in this video, but obviously in far greater detail. So if you're interested in that, as I said, please do check out the link that's on the screen in the description to the video, and let's get on. So I'm just going to do a bit of painting, looking at these sketches that I did the other week. Yeah, there's some quite nice marks in here. I might look at this one as well because there were some good bits in here that I can maybe pull out some of those marks. Probably not the previous ones. That's a black and white one. This rivery one, I might leave that as well. So I think these two, because they came from the same original sketch, they've got quite a consistent sort of look about them. So there's some interesting colours and things. I think I can probably have a play around with those. As you can see, I was having a really good muck about with these paintings here. I just had the two of them on the go. I think it's really nice to work on more than one painting at a time. I do it all the time. I never had just one thing on the go. It's great to be able to just carry ideas across from one to the other. Works really well for me working in a little series. So initially they started out quite similar, but I pushed them into slightly different directions, just trying out different things. So on here I've put some black acrylic, I've got some pastel, this is some oil pastel actually on here, there's some soft pastel as well, this is soft pastel, again more acrylic paint, using quite a lot of blotting as well. I like to put the paint on quite fluid, and my trusty spray, it's just an old spray bottle, it's got some water in it. It's very good for cutting back through the paint. But once it's got quite wet, it can be quite difficult to keep the layers separate. So what I was doing is I'm blotting it back. I think it's really good to keep a fairly dry painting surface. For me, for the way I work, I like to keep the surface quite dry. So even though I put the water on, let it drip and run, and then blot it back to get rid of all that excess, so the next layer isn't just getting mushed up with the stuff that's underneath. So yeah, just a really good play around with them. You know, acrylic paint, just scraping back through. As I was saying, I was using my little metal, it's a decorating scraper actually, just for scraping back through the paint, revealing some of the things that are underneath, working back through with some pencils, actually scratching through using the edge of the scraper. That was quite good fun. Gets a different mark, and on these wooden panels you can actually create a little groove in the wood if you can be fairly aggressive with it. That can be quite nice because the paint kind of sits into those little grooves and can create quite an interesting mark. So yeah, just having a really good play around with those, and it's a start. I hope you enjoyed watching that. As I was saying at the beginning of the video, my next workshop is coming up really soon, and we'll be doing loads of this kind of work, but in far greater detail. So if you're interested in having a go at that, do check out the link that's on the screen in the description to the video, and I'll see you soon.